Hello, and thank you for joining this week's Layer 1 Media webinar featuring Keith Klade speaking to the audience today on the topic of B2B Omni-channel Experiences. Your lines are muted, and we will take questions at the end, so please hold them until we ask the audience for questions. With that, I'll turn it over to Keith.
Hello. Today we're going to be exploring really, I'll say, the true B2B omni-channel experience. But before we do that, just a quick introduction. I'm Keith Klade. I'm the VP here at Layer 1 Media in charge of e-commerce. And I come from a background of roughly a little over 20 years of leadership experience in manufacturing and distribution. And from everything from e-commerce to digital transformation and even global business process transformation. So with that, I want to give you a little overview of Layer 1 Media. We're a digital agency that really, I'll say, focuses on the complete digital ecosystem. And we cover everything from digital strategy to really e-commerce to web experience platforms and product and information management. So it's really the full gambit between the data information management side, e-commerce, digital marketing, and web experience management. We were founded in 2000. And we're one of those organizations that can really bridge the gap between marketing and the technology organizations. And we have a very, very, tight focus on the B2B front. With that being said, I'd like to get into and go over what we're going to be covering in the next 30 minutes. We're going to start off by explaining and going over really, I'll say, the B2B definition for an omni-channel. And then we're going to talk about really some of the B2B and omni-channel models that really exist out there. And we're going to introduce really, I'll say, that model and really the extended enterprise. So what does that mean when it comes to your manufacturers, your distributors and dealers, and really other channels that manufacturers do business with? And then we're going to talk about some considerations for enabling a true B2B omni-channel experience. So let's get started. First, it makes sense to talk about the definition of omni-channel. And really, what is that? It really is all about driving a consistent experience across all the channels that a business takes to market. And really, that can mean a lot of different things to many different organizations out there, especially in the B2B space. But when you actually look at B2C, B2B is very different when it comes to that omni-channel experience. B2B is very, very focused on the experience, everything from the digital online experience to, I'll say, the in-store references and, I'll say, in-store purchases that take place within the brick and mortar that retail organizations and other B2C organizations, I'll say, hold. But in the B2B space related to manufacturers, a lot of that experience is done through their channel partners. And the channel partners are the ones that are touching the customer directly. So B2B is really about those manufacturers working through their channels to those end customers. And today we're going to explore that in this webinar and talk a little bit about what does that mean to the omni-channel. So let's talk about really the B2B omni-channel experience. And really I'll say when you look at the manufacturers, you know, really the digital experience or your online experience is really where manufacturers are doing a lot of their business today when they're working with their channel partners. Now, a lot of that may be done via phone, but it's also online. And these areas that we have here, these four quadrants, really make up the four areas of your digital ecosystem that really need to be taken into account when we're looking at the omni-channel. Everything from your web experience management, which when you look at it from the omni-channel, is really about how you go to market into, I'll say, the different mobile platforms that are out there, you know, tablets, handheld devices, and your desktop, laptops, and other, I'll say, mobile capabilities, as well as content management. You know, how you're managing your content across the enterprise and making sure that it's consistent and communicated in the same way, regardless of the media that it's presented through. And then your branding experience, being able to provide a consistent brand identity across your organization. That all fits into the web experience management space. And how you go to market and how you drive a consistent experience in these areas is critical. You also have to augment that really with data and information. So making sure that you have consistent data standards and how you publish those and reuse those data, I'll say attributes, documentation, I'll say media, images, and even video across your organization in a consistent fashion lends to that omni-channel experience. So it's critical to have standards in these areas and drive that. From a knowledge management standpoint, your subject matter expertise, and making sure you're communicating that consistently across your organization. When you're looking at digital marketing, it's really how you're managing accounts and your leads. Really, I'll say in the marketing or the account and lead-based marketing platforms that you go to market with. It's social media and how you're presenting yourself out there across the multiple social media platforms that exist. And then how you publish content to those and go about content marketing. It's about your campaign management and driving consistency in your campaigns and the content that you're delivering through those campaigns. But that same content should exist on your websites and be consistent there. And then how you remarket and retarget as you go through that campaigning process to those social media platforms. I'll say other forums that you want to really target specific information to. And then finally, when you look at the e-commerce side, it's about how you go to market and how you communicate your shipments, your orders, your invoicing, as well as your price and availability, and making those things available in a consistent fashion across your organization, and making sure that these things are all integrated together into one experience, and how the data, content, and information flows through these four quadrants, making sure that that is consistent, clear, and concise, and delivered in the same manner is really what it's all about when it comes to the omni-channel. Okay, now, when you look at this, this is very, very unique to manufacturing and the B2B market. B2C, you'd go and throw in here, really I'll say that in-store experience as well. But with B2B, it's becoming more and more prevalent that digital is really a driving force in the marketplace, and it's going to be really prevalent and be a focus for most organizations in the future. So let's talk about what that means more to B2B, because now it gets a little bit more complicated when you're talking about that in comparison to B2C. B2B manufacturers not only have to deal with and work to make sure they have a consistent experience across these areas within their brick and mortar, and then communicating that outward, but that communication outward is really to their distribution, dealers, and other channel partners. And they, in return, then have to communicate the same information out in a consistent fashion to really the end customer. Now, you can see how this really complicates the model quite a bit, because now your manufacturers not only have to think about how they're communicating out to their partners, but then making sure that that consistent message is also communicated out from their channel partners. And that consistency is important because most manufacturers have websites and other vehicles that allow them to take and address the digital ecosystem, but the distributors are the same way and doing the same thing. So when your customers are working out there and obtaining information through these experiences, they may be going to the distributors, they may be going to the manufacturers and comparing and contrasting information. So it's critical to have important, I'll say, linkages and I'll say collaboration between the manufacturers and those channel partners, and making sure that that experience is really, I'll say, clear and concise. So let's talk about some of the things that come into play when you're actually looking at the B2B omnichannel, and we'll start by looking at the manufacturer side. Really the things that they can be doing within their organization to consolidate, manage, and reuse information and data that will then help drive that omni-channel experience and how they communicate with their partners and those end customers. So first and foremost is really building the foundation for really, I'll say, positioning yourself to even be able to do or provide an omni-channel experience. Enterprise architecture is critical in working to drive towards that experience. You need to work across your marketing, sales, and business units and IT to understand really what is the architecture for data and information. What are the systems of record? What are the systems of truth? And what are the systems of engagement? What records are responsible for providing sources to the data? Where do you consolidate it so you have consolidated repositories of truth? And then what are the, I'll say, platforms, or what are the channels to market that then consume that information within that digital ecosystem? Having a strategy, an enterprise architecture strategy, is a key foundational point to helping drive an omni-channel experience. Now, what are companies doing to really help them consolidate their data and information and drive that clear and concise communication as well? Master data management. Many companies are pursuing MDM to bring together 360-degree views of their product, customer, and pricing information, and consolidate that and cleanse it in a way that it can be repurposed in a clear and concise fashion across all of the systems and their websites within their organization, including their e-commerce and ERP platforms. Product and information management, or PIM. This is really a marketing discipline, and your marketing organizations will consolidate product information, make sure it's complete, make sure that all of the attributes related to a product exist, and then they'll enrich it and really, I'll say, put it into a format that allows it to be delivered to a customer, where MDM is really an IT discipline that's focused on cleansing and providing data within your organization and outward to these platforms, including PIM. Enterprise content management. Many companies are pursuing enterprise content management solutions to consolidate and reuse their digital collateral. That includes things like documentation, as well as specifications, wiring diagrams, and other forms of, I'll say, media that helps bring together really that overall content management within your organization. Then there's a piece of enterprise content management that people break out, which is called web content management. Many organizations are doing this. This is a stepping stone and really a foundational piece for managing content and allowing it to be reused across multiple websites. That content becomes componentized, and not only can it be reused on your websites, but it can also be reused on print. Both enterprise content management and web content management do focus on data quality and content quality, and making sure that that can be brought in a consistent fashion to your clients. Digital asset management, or DAM. Many people are using this to consolidate their rich media, such as images, music, and video, and then allowing those images to be used across not only their websites, but printed material as well. Web content management, digital asset management, enterprise content management can not only drive online experiences, but it also can be used and reused for printed material that can also go out. I'll say providing an omni-channel not only online, but through your printed brochures and marketing literature. Knowledge management, and this is really the reuse of subject matter expertise, facts and studies, case studies, and I'll say industry solutions and success stories. Really bringing that together into one platform that your customers can access and have a clear, I'll say, advantage in being able to locate information that helps them, I'll say, solve issues and look for solutions is key to having and consolidating in one place. Unified communications and collaboration, involving unified email, voice, chat, work in process, so you can actually work in process amongst teams and even on projects, and collaborate on documentation, on specifications, on wiring diagrams, on manuals and install guides. These things are all work in process that can be collaborated on through your unified communications and collaboration processes, and then it's actually fed into your enterprise content management and other content management solutions that you see above. Your computer-based telephony integration, so integrating your phone systems into your web experience and into your call reporting and your incident reporting is also another way to drive an omni-channel experience. And then finally, marketing automation. being able to integrate all of these things into campaigns and reuse content not only across your websites, but also within the campaigns that you generate through email, social, and other media that would then be consistent with that provided on your website. Social media site aggregation. Again, this is another approach to consolidating information and being able to bring the multiple social media platforms and information that are published out there back to your website and put it into, I'll say, a single area where not only your partners but your customers now can reference it in a very clear and concise way and have a consistent message and see things all in one place. And then finally, the most obvious and I think the most being pursued out there right now is in the mobile space. When you look at responsive and adaptive web design, which involves really being able to render really your interfaces and your content and your websites on a mobile device based on screen size, the platform that it's being displayed and placed on, and the orientation. So these are 2, or I'll say 10 areas that a lot of companies are focusing on, consolidating information, being able to manage it in one place, and then being able to reuse and republish it out to others within the organization in a consistent fashion and across that ecosystem we talked about in the last slides. Now let's talk about that extended enterprise. And what do these things mean to the B2B experience when you bring in the channel partners? So manufacturers should really be out there working when they're developing their omni-channel experience. They should be working with their channel partners, their distributors, their dealers, and the others, OEMs, system integrators, and other channel partners that they work with, and develop strategies around how they would reuse and prevent the replication of information and data in a way that it could become out of sync with one another, and really, I'll say, impact that consistent experience. So let's go through those 10 and talk about just some quick and dirty examples of ways that people are using these things to really go out there and work with their channel partners in that extended enterprise omni-channel experience. So from an enterprise architecture standpoint, companies are leveraging punch-out integration. So bringing in their purchase requisition systems or their customers or their channel partners' purchase requisition systems and punching it into their system where they don't have to replicate a product catalog. And instead, they punch out to another company or manufacturer system, obtain the products that they need in a purchase requisition order, bring that then back into their system, complete the purchase requisition process, and then punch off an order. Right there, you prevented the replication of a product catalog and made sure that the information related to that product information to the distributor is consistent with that being provided by the manufacturer. Using real-time web services to go out there and get real-time price and availability from the manufacturer is also another way to provide a consistent omni-channel experience where you're not having to replicate price and availability information back into the distributor system. And then using data consortiums, like in the electrical manufacturing industry, where they have consortiums that establish data standards for orders and different types of content that can be exchanged between manufacturers and distributors. Leveraging those is critical to the omni-channel experience. Master data management, bringing together that cleansed product and customer and pricing data, and then allowing it to be promoted directly from your MDM solutions to those consortiums, whether it be via EDI or web services, to populate those consortiums and those industry data warehouses to provide consistent information to your channels. And then using business intelligence over those MDM solutions to also provide that to your partners. Being able to provide online reporting to your channel partners from your systems will only benefit your channel partners in providing that unique experience and that, I'll say, that common omni-channel experience that your end customers are looking for. Enterprise content management is really the use of the digital collateral that you have on your websites, leveraging URLs that you provide to your channel partners, and then they can actually provide them to their end customers as well that point back to specifications and brochures as opposed to having to replicate them into your channel partner systems. Digital asset management. This is being used commonly out there quite a bit between manufacturers and their channel partners. Replicating images take up a lot of space. So being able to provide URL links in relationship to product data that your distributors can hold in their systems and then link back to in your digital asset management system and then display it from there on their website only brings a significant savings from a storage standpoint, but also make sure you're always using the latest and greatest images provided by the manufacturer. Knowledge management, providing shared knowledge bases of FAQs, support cases, and those studies we talked about earlier. Using the cloud, there's many solutions in the marketplace for knowledge basing, keeping track of those FAQs, linking, having your manufacturers and your channel partners linking to the same knowledge base and reusing it within their websites only drives, again, that consistent omni-channel experience. In the unified communications and collaboration space, it's really about shared project portals, being able to collaborate with your channel partners in a way that you can work on projects together and build that standard, I'll say specification that needs to go to your end customer. And then integrate this into, your campaign processes. So integrating the things that we have above into your integrated campaigns, whether it be email or social, being able to provide content from these back-end systems into your marketing automation and campaigning process only builds that common, again, consistent omni-channel communication. Social media site aggregation. Okay, this is, there's many platforms out there providing social, and then those on-site platforms that many companies integrate and implement as well. Using shared blogs, wikis, and forums, again, between your channel partners and you, and with your customers, only provide a more omni-channel experience. And then finally, in your mobile areas, making sure that you've got, shared resources that really help your customers find your distributors, find your dealers, and find your other channel partners, and really, how and what expertise they have in helping service the manufacturer's products as well as deliver those services to the end customer. So these are examples really of how you can leverage these areas in your omni-channel experience, not only within the brick and mortar of a manufacturing organization and bringing that together and then communicating it outward to the channel partners, but then how you can then take it into account and work with your channel partners to bring together that extended enterprise omni-channel experience, taking these things in consideration. So let's really, talk about really some of the key takeaways that you should leave this webinar, thinking about. First is, there's a foundational aspect of the omni-channel. You don't want to put the cart ahead of the horse. You need to understand your digital ecosystem requirements and align your enterprise architecture to facilitate common standards for the use of data, content, and information, with an emphasis on being able to reuse that across your organization and with your channel partners. You need to collaborate with your channel partners on omni-channel solutions. You need to work with them and inspire thought leadership and change agents in your organization and theirs to drive that digital omni-channel innovation. When you work with your channel partners as a team to bring this together, that experience will be well beyond and consistent and can reduce everything from legal issues related to your products to driving, conversions in your organization through that experience driving from the end customer through your channel partners to your own organization. End result is more conversions and more capabilities and a better ease of doing business with your partners and customers. And then finally, make sure that you're thinking through reuse and making sure that you're looking for opportunities to not replicate information between you and your channel partners and within your organization. And then finally, make sure that you have a strategy. Develop a strategy roadmap for your omni-channel experience. That should not only include how things would roadmap out within your organization and your brick and mortar, but then within the extended enterprise, including your channel partners. With that, we're at the end of the session today. If you'd like any more information on the Omnichannel, as well as the digital ecosystem and other strategies that can be pursued, feel free to check us out on the Layer 1 Media website at the URL provided.
We'll now open the line for questions. If there are any, please go ahead and ask. Okay, then if there are no questions, thank you for attending today's webinar. Let us know what your thoughts are on social media, Twitter, and watch for a link to the recording and transcription of this in next month's Layer 1 Media email blast. Thank you and have a great day.